Welcome to Raising Today's Kids, a Project Stand podcast. I am really excited to have with me my guest, Josh Thurman, today. And he is here to tell us about a product that he has helped develop called AngelQ. And I first heard about AngelQ at the Coalition to End Sexual Exploitation's Global Summit in Washington, D.C. last August. I was super impressed with the product. I was like, where has this been all my kids' life? So I wanted to invite Josh on here to talk more about it and let parents know about it and teach me more about it as well. But Josh, I'd love first if you could just introduce yourself a little bit. Tell us, who you are and your story. What brought you to this, and why have you invested so much of your passion and energy into this?
Yeah, thank you, Brittany, for having me. I love what Project Stand is doing, and it's great to see just more and more partners in the mission to protect kids online and build education and awareness. And what we're trying to do in that piece is provide alternate technical solutions that your kids can use that don't exploit them. So it's great to be here. I'll give the short version. So I grew up in Franklin, Tennessee. I went to Wake Forest University. 9/11 happened when I was a junior there. That sort of completely altered the course of my life. So I was heading down a pre-med route, thought that was my calling. And then when 9/11 happened, I started reconsidering that and really got interested in potentially becoming a Navy SEAL. And so I ended up becoming a Navy SEAL for a SEAL officer for almost 13 years from 2005 to 2018 and deployed 11 times across the globe in the global war on terror. So protection has, I guess, always been sort of, I guess you could call it a passion, but just a calling for me. And my wife and I met in 2014. We wanted to have a big family, and that created a lot of conflict with my Navy SEAL schedule. So 2018, we adjusted course. We moved back to my hometown in Franklin, Tennessee, and now we have 5 kids. Just had one 3 months ago, so we've got from 10 down to 3 months old. And in the course of that, a lot of how I got to AngelQ was one, when I got out of the military, I'd been in what I describe as a bit of a bubble. You're very mission focused. You're constantly with your team. You have, community and mission, and those are the two probably most key things in life. And when I got out, one, it was difficult to reset myself on career, but I just recognized the world was vastly different than when I'd gone into the military. And it was sort of blowing my mind how people were sucked into their devices, didn't seem to be available for conversation or community or deep connection. And it became very clear to me that this thing called the internet, particularly social media, had a massive negative effect on our society. And the more I dug into it, I realized just what a mental health crisis we have for our young people. And so that's really the origin of how I got into AngelQ is recognizing we have this huge societal problem, and having kids myself, it was sort of a natural extension of wanting to protect them and also wanting to do something that, at the end of the day, we need technology that empowers us as humans, that drives human flourishing, that helps us live lives of meaning and impact, all the things we would want for ourselves and our children. And the reality is we have the exact opposite of that at a huge and massive scale, that unfortunately is powered by billions of dollars and the best minds in technology. And they've built a machine that, because it's driven by attention-based monetization, it is predatorial towards us. And so just about everything out there is designed to get us into a dopamine loop that keeps us coming back to our devices and what's on those screens.
Okay, I love it. I love everything that you shared. I love your perspective. I love how you refer to the technology as predatorial, and yeah, they're capitalizing on our attention. And so then welcome AngelQ, right? Onto the scene comes this amazing new product. Why don't you tell us what it is, what it's capable of, and how it can bless families?
Yeah, so the vision of AngelQ is to build technology that is in the service of our well-being. It should be a tool and not a place to hang out, and a tool towards the things that we want to do in our lives where we can learn and thrive and grow. The concept is this, AI is obviously, we're in this AI revolution. It's rapidly changing our world, probably more so than any other technology has in the past. Behind the scenes for the past decade or so, AI has been used by large tech companies in an adversarial way towards us. And that's how we've gotten these incredibly addictive feeds that come through social media, and then even on different websites, they're trying to suck you in and get you to click on different things. We see AI, certainly it's a powerful tool, but its intentionality needs to be flipped. And instead of being a tool that is used to exploit us, it should be something that empowers us.
Yeah.
And so the mission of AngelQ is to use AI to make the internet safe for kids. The internet is inherently unsafe for kids. I don't. That's probably not a shock to anyone, certainly listening to this podcast. If you think about the phase of the internet, it used to be this sort of read-only internet. People would post things and you could go read about them, and that was mostly pretty innocuous. And then it became this sort of read-write internet, and that's when social became more effective and people were having commenting and chats and the like button and this sort of thing. And that's when a lot of big tech companies realized they could hook us more and more and more in this race to the bottom of the brainstem effectively. And now when you have AI powering the systems that they employ for us to use, which unfortunately is now critical infrastructure for our society, because this is so much of how people get information. Your kid's school, your church, my kids' jujitsu, they have Facebook pages, and that's where you got to go to get information. Unfortunately, it is surrounded by all these things that are going to addict you and then overexpose you, and all the problems that come from that. So we are using AI to sort of turn the internet back into a library. And what I mean by that is, so when your kid comes to AngelQ, we're not feeding them a bunch of either videos or any sort of content that tries to suck them in and keep them there. They are there for a purpose, which is they should be there to learn something, look something up. I mean, and it might be to have fun or be entertained, but the goal of our platform is not to keep them hooked in there for as long as possible. The goal is to provide a useful tool for the kids and the family that is fundamentally safe. And so, this library concept, you go to the library, if you want to look up a book, you got to go to the card catalog, right? And you got to seek out that book. Okay, the way the internet works now, it's like you go into the library and these big tech companies are throwing at you the worst parts of what might be in that library. Imagine
Yeah.
like the porn section or the highly violent section. That stuff is getting surfaced because they know it's sensationalized, people are going to get sucked into it, and it's going to sell. Okay, if we could get rid of that, and us and our children can just ask questions and get the information that's useful to them and take out away all the clutter, effectively make the internet a lot more boring. Now everything can come back in balance, right? Certainly it's valuable to get information on the internet. Like, that's extraordinarily valuable. And AI makes getting information so much easier and so much faster. And so what we provide with AngelQ, we promise that our goal is to make every interaction safe, healthy, productive, and fun. And our promise to parents is you should have incredible peace of mind if they're on AngelQ, they're not going to get overexposed, and that we're not trying to hook your kid.
Mhm.
And they can ask questions about just about anything, and get a really good age appropriate answer that's at their level. That's what AI helps us to do. So whether it's a 5-year-old or 12-year-old, they could ask the same question. They're going to get a response that is at their approximate age level. And that's super valuable. And then we also have a research mode where they can dive deeper into topics. My son, he's in second grade. He's just doing a project on the state of Virginia. He's using AngelQ. He uses the research mode. And when you ask about the history of the state of Virginia, Angel, our AI, goes out, reads a dozen or so websites. It consolidates that information, like AI is really good at doing. It comes back and gives them an overview and a nice summary. And it even will show, hey, these are the sources where this information came from. It's important to, continue to teach your kids critical skills thinking of like, hey, where did the information come from? Is it a valuable source? How should I be questioning this? But they can see the sources. They can even click into the sources. We don't take them to the website, but what we do is we re-render that site in what we call reader mode. So you can imagine being on Wikipedia or abcnews.com, anywhere, and that site is likely littered with ads and clickbait and trying to like suck your kid into other areas. We strip out all of that, so you just get the information. So it is definitely more boring and also a lot more useful and more valuable as a tool to actually get the information that you're trying to get.
Mhm. So it's an app that they can get on smartphones or on desktop, or where is
Yeah,
it
so this
available
is
right now?
yeah, currently it's an app that you download from the App Store. It's on iOS, and then iPad OS as well. So iPhones and iPads.
Mhm.
And you can think of it, we call it a super browser. That's because we are effectively replacing the functional capabilities of Safari or Chrome, whatever your browser is, the Google search capability, and YouTube. So all of those things, we have the same functionality. You can get the same information in an age appropriate way. And it's because we're changing the interface for how you get that information, it's coming to you in a much safer way.
Mhm. Okay, so what's the age range that you recommend this for?
We've built this for kids 5 to 12.
Okay.
Um, and I say, kids below 5, frankly, should have little to no sort of device time, is what the studies are saying. So,
Mhm.
5, it would be the first time we'd recommend, using AngelQ with your children. And then it goes up to about 12. And this is the cohort we've built this for initially. A lot of it is because they haven't gotten used to what exists out there now. And we're presenting to them a really great, safe first internet experience. And the goal is to train them to have a healthy relationship with technology, and let them know that this is the way technology should operate to get you things that are useful in your life, and again, not try to exploit you. And another piece of it is it should come with time limits and guardrails, and that's what we offer on our parental control side of the house. We have a really great capability where you install the AngelQ app and you can turn on, we call it Angel Only mode. So you're on your iPhone, you're on your iPad, you flip on Angel Only, and our app will shut down all the other apps on the device. So you can effectively instantly turn your device into something that's very safe, because now they can only access the internet via AngelQ. And then we also have an AI for the parent. It's called ParentQ. And ParentQ, parents can interact with it via text message. So, Brittany, for example, you have an iPhone, maybe you have a family iPad, or your kids have iPads. You've got AngelQ on that iPad. If they're using it, and as happens in pretty much every family where there's technology, there's often conflict about the time limits and what's going on that. And maybe they're watching a show on AngelQ, and they don't want to give it up, but hey, it's time to go to soccer practice. You can use the parent queue, text it, and say, tell my child the soccer practice is we have to leave in 5 minutes, and shut down their device. And it'll shut down the entire device, including AngelQ. They won't be able to do anything, and and naturally they'll put it down. And it's a way to get them offboarded, ideally with less conflict than exists now. I mean, anyone who's if you've had your kid on YouTube or something like that, as I have done, and most parents have done it in a moment of desperation, when you try to offboard them from that, it's like you're ripping their arm off, right? And that they act like addicts because that's how it's designed. Of course, AngelQ is not designed like that. However, there's just way too much conflict over in the home over screen time and the amount it's used, and so we want to minimize that and help families set safe and healthy boundaries with regards to how much time is being used, and when is appropriate to use it and when to get off.
Yeah. Yeah. Excellent. So give me maybe an example of how, like, if a child wants to go online and search for something, what is a way that, like, what, I don't know, give me an example of how it works.
Sure. Yeah. So they'll open up the AngelQ app. We have some fun characters. It's a kid first design. Most of the internet is completely designed for adults, and then we've tried to throw some bolt on some safety elements. This is safe by design, and it's also designed for young kids, so they can choose fun characters. Like we have a pirate, we have a princess, we have a wrestler, and a sportscaster. So there's things for girls and boys, and Angel will sort of take on that character's voice, and they can ask it. Last year a big thing was the solar eclipse. And so you can say, "Hey, Angel, tell me about the solar eclipse. How often does it occur? What should I be looking for?" And Angel will come back and speak to them. So you can use natural language, so they don't even have to be able to type, and they can just ask a question like that. Angel will respond to them with a really great in-depth, sort of curated an answer that's curated for their age, and it'll even come back with pictures. So they're getting almost like a presentation on demand about the solar eclipse, and then they can keep follow-on questions if they'd like to dig deeper. and that's how it works. And then I mentioned the research mode. So if they want to dive deeper into topic, they ask about research mode. The main difference here is it takes about 20 seconds to get an answer. And
Mm-hmm.
it's not an answer that gets spoken to you because it's just so much information. This is probably for kids who are in the 9 to 12 range,
Mm-hmm.
but they can read that stuff. And so, my kids love it. They go into the research mode. My daughter's into, she loves dogs and the Westminster Dog Show. She'll learn about Monty, who won the last Westminster, and she actually got to go with her grandma this year. So she'll read all about that, and it's something that'll they can read for several minutes and get lots of information about it. And my son is obsessed with Patrick Mahomes, so I'll go ask about Patrick Mahomes and get all his stats, like his career, where he went to college, and all this great information, and they really love that.
Amazing. So it seems like a really great resource that could be implemented on school devices. Is
For
that
sure.
something?
Yes, and right now we're consumer facing only, but we do plan to offer a school-based solution. I don't have a hard timeline for that. It'll probably be sometime in the fall, but
Okay.
I've talked to a number of schools. They have a lot of problems. I mean, it's actually unbelievable to me. They will issue iPads and Chromebooks with effectively no safeguards on them at all, which is, I don't know how they don't have a huge amount of liability for that. Giving out an iPad with open YouTube on it is absurd, for all the things that kids can find there. And we're talking like third, fourth, fifth graders. But AngelQ could instantly make those devices safe, and it is an upgrade in experience and capability on search. A lot of schools do use something like Google Safe Search. Prior to now, that was probably the safest search tool available, but it works on keyword blocking, and that has holes in it because as slang develops and language develops, you can find things without triggering a word, maybe like pornography or a gun or something like that, that would be an obvious keyword.
Yeah.
And kids will use slang, not even intentionally, but will get around, unfortunately, things come through there that you don't want your kids to see.
Yeah.
Um, AI is so much smarter. The Angel
Yeah.
Q AI is so much smarter than a keyword search because it can detect intent, and it can identify even like recent slang. So
Mm,
you could ask something like, I mean, this came up at my kid's school on it was related to like body count in a game, online game that kids probably shouldn't have been playing. But you can ask about that sort of topic, like, what's your body count on some Roblox experience, and it'll know immediately that's not appropriate. Whereas like a Google Safe Search, that's probably going to get through because body count could be a lot of
yeah.
different things.
Right.
Yeah.
So then what happens then on AngelQ if you type in
Yes.
body count?
Yes. Uh, so we call this our parent deferred functionality. And anything that gets into a gray area where we think it would be more appropriate for a parent to have this conversation with their child than for our AI to do so, we say, hey Henry, it's interesting that you're curious about this. This would be better for you to follow up with a parent or a trusted grown up.
Mm,
And then it'll redirect them like, why don't we talk about, it'll know like maybe they like sports or ballet or art or something like that. I'll say, why don't we go do an art project?
mm,
And at that very, I mean, within 15 seconds of that, the parent will get an email saying, hey, your kid just asked about uh, this topic. Like, you probably want to engage with them on it. So
mm,
um, the core principle here is complete transparency with the parent. And we do that through a parent portal where you can go and see every interaction that they've had. And also, if they're triggering something that's going to be at the edge of age appropriate, we're going to send the parent an email about it. So it could be anything from, they might ask where babies come from. Like Angel Q is not going to answer that. They might hear the word pornography somewhere and say, be curious about that and look that up, and that's going to get flagged as well. So um, anything that sort of fits in that range of to be whether it's profanity, violence, you can think about it in a very analogous way to video ratings.
mhm,
These are all things like our society really has deemed to be not child appropriate, and if
mhm.
it's encroaching on that, then we automatically defer to the parent.
Okay. Is there any kind of room for parents to customize what content their kids can see?
There is to some degree now, and we will be enhancing this. So, for one, so we do have some video integrations. One is YouTube Kids, one is Netflix, and one is Disney Plus. Parents can turn those all off, so there's no videos, or they can turn them all on. With Netflix and Disney, you need to connect your existing accounts to those. And when you do, that gives your child the ability to look up maybe Moana on Disney Plus, or a show they might like on Netflix, and then and then the videos that are on YouTube Kids. We have a Angel rating system that applies to the Disney Plus and the Netflix integrations based on your child's age, whether they're 5 to 7, 7 to 9, or 10 to 12. We have defaults rating system that ensures that they have content that's appropriate for that age group. And then parents, if they would like, they can go in and customize those ratings.
Mm,
We have within our parent portal. So let's say your child is triggered by scary themes. And because even G-rated type content can have themes that are a little bit dark and maybe upsetting to a child. You can go and turn that down to 0, and anything that has a remotely scary theme to it will be blocked from your child's view. And you
hmm.
can apply that across a number of parameters. The ultimate goal is to empower the parent to um, allow their child to see what's appropriate for them and for their household and their values. And so that's how we do that.
Yeah, and I imagine it helps parents make decisions about what they let their kids watch because, like, my son, we recently watched the movie Anastasia, and I was all excited about it. I remember loving that as a kid, but then when I got to the scene with Rasputin, I was like, "Oh, I completely forgot about this terrifying, creepy man," and I maybe
Yes.
would have filtered that for my youngest. So,
Yes, yeah. You've touched on something that we've discovered as well, which is like movies made like in the 80s and like early 90s. I guess G had a different rating then. I mean, my wife and I find this stuff all the time. We're like, oh my gosh, I didn't know that was in there.
yeah.
And I actually, ironically, in most things, the world has gotten desensitized, but I actually think our rating system has gotten better for young kids on those types of shows more broadly.
So great. Okay, so interestingly, I have a gap with my kids. I have a 4-year-old and a 13-year-old. I'm like
Mm.
just outside, and I have older kids too, but
Yeah.
just outside the age ranges. Like, why 12? Tell me, why you chose that as your high end number.
So as kids are, it's about the time kids are going into middle school.
Yeah.
At that point, a lot have already been exposed to other things outside, and have that experience, and it may be a little bit more challenging to get them back into a different type of environment like AngelQ provides. So that's one piece of it. The other is uh, we don't have any messaging capability in AngelQ. We do want to add that and add that later, but a lot of kids, they'll need some basic capabilities to coordinate with other people. Maybe their soccer team or whatever is sending out messages and like in group chats and things like that. We want to provide a safe option for that, and we just don't have it yet. But we do plan to have a teens product later down the road that'll have some of those capabilities. So there's only so much capacity in the first
Yeah.
product that we have to go for, and so this is the age range we went for,
Yeah.
and just recognizing that older kids have a little bit different needs, and we want to address that. We want this cohort to get on AngelQ and develop a healthy relationship with technology. And then as they grow, we intend to have products that take them through 16, 17 years old to early adulthood, at which point they would sort of graduate out.
I love it. Yeah, you got to start somewhere and then just build from there. That's
That's
fantastic.
right.
Okay, do you have any success stories? Like, I'd love to hear about success stories of a family that maybe has used this and was able to protect their kids.
Yeah, for sure. So one that I really love, this was actually a friend of mine at one of the early beta tests. She had a daughter who was about 12 years old and uh, was using Angel. And one of the questions that she asked was, gosh, and I'm going to forget these twins' names. There's some Instagram influencers. They're very beautiful young twins. They've been on Instagram since they were young, and they're about that age now. And I wish I could remember the names, but the question was, hey, what makes them so beautiful?
Mhm.
And then they kept asking questions about that, and Angel had these amazing responses, basically saying, assuring this child user, hey, what makes you beautiful is what's inside of you, and you are unique and special in your own way. And also, these images have likely been doctored and things like that. So this girl sort of seeking, like, I want to be like these
Yeah.
girls,
Yeah.
and it was assuring her, that she is enough, right?
Oh,
And that she's special and how she's made. And that also there's some fakeness going on in the way these images are created and displayed, that we all know goes on with the filters and everything else. And so,
yeah.
it did two really valuable things there. One, assure her, and then two, like teach her, like this isn't the real world. This is a doctored world. I had this conversation with this mom as a friend of mine from high school, and she, when we were in high school, we had discipleship group leaders talk about Teen Magazine and basically saying, like, this stuff is garbage. Like, don't let this filtrate your mind. And now it's like we have Teen Magazine on steroids. Like, it's like exponential, right, through Instagram and things like that. So that was a use case that I found to be, like, particularly touching, and valuable.
Amazing. And I can only imagine if she had typed that into Google, what she would have found. Like she
Oh,
could
for
have been
sure.
traumatized.
Undoubtedly, yes.
And what it would have taught her about her own identity, her body image, all those kinds of things that could have changed the trajectory of her the value that she sees in herself.
Yeah, that's for sure.
Amazing. Well, thank you. Well, okay, so where can people find AngelQ? Tell us more about how to access it, those kinds of things.
Yes. So AngelQ is available on the App Store, primarily in the US, but if you're in other English-speaking countries, you can get a limited test version of that. And we're in a launch window here. So a lot of our first users are getting access to a year free. And so, Brittany, I'll give you a code for your show notes, and you can post that in there.
Okay.
And be sure it's going to be about the first 1,000 folks. So sign up soon so you can get
Yeah.
that year free. And yeah, you can get it for iPhone and iPad. I was gonna say, check out our website, angelq.ai, and you can learn a lot more about the product and about us ourselves. All the whole founding team, we're all parents.
Mhm.
And I want to be clear, this is a product that my kids use. It's the only thing I let my kids use on the internet. And I'll contrast that to, there have been numerous stories of major big tech leaders who do not let their kids use their own products. And we were like, that's not who we want to be. That's not who we are. And so, yeah, this is parents building something that we want for our own children.
It's amazing. And I actually really appreciate that there is I love that you're offering a year for free. That's amazing. But I love that there will be a cost associated with it, because what that says is you're not capitalizing on our children's attention. You're not selling them as the product.
Yes.
And you're giving the opportunity, you're not feeding them all these ads and those kinds of things.
Yes, thank you for bringing that up. This is a subscription service. It's $15 a month for your family. You can have as many child profiles as you want. And yes, we explicitly decided this is the only way we could run this business, because otherwise our incentives would not be aligned with the family.
Mhm.
And that is the root of all problems on the internet, is that those incentives are about productizing us and our children, and that's what leads to this sort of pandemic of negative consequences we have. So we're flipping that on its head. And fortunate or unfortunate, it's an internet you have to pay for, because the existing internet is so dangerous for your children.
Yeah, totally worth it. What about Android and those kinds of things? What can we expect
Yes,
for
great
Android users?
question. Android is coming. I believe it'll be out in the fall. And yeah, we know we've had a lot of demand signal from the Android users. And again, it's not we don't have anything against Android users. It was just a resourcing issue, and it made sense to go for this cohort first. Yeah, but this will be coming out on Android as well in the future.
I'm so excited for all of the ideas that you guys have and where this will go. And even just to start, it's an amazing place to start. So, any final message that you'd like to offer to parents before we close?
Yeah, I would just say what we're doing is really fundamentally different than just about any technology choice out there makes parenting harder. And it works directly against sort of not just good parenting, but the healthy development of your child. And so, and we're trying to deliver something different. You know, when you look at your options right now, you can be like extremely low tech or no tech, and that's probably the better place to be than to be, more permissive. However, you run the risk of your child not understanding technology, what AI is, how it can be useful for them. And so what we're doing is carving this middle path where, yes, there's tons of useful, valuable information that can help your kid learn and grow that's available on the internet, that they can have curiosity-driven learning towards the things that they care about. And we want to make that accessible to them. I think that's a very legitimate requirement for them and something that we want to provide. We're providing this middle path that frankly hasn't existed because parents have had pretty poor choices either way. It's sort of either an unacceptable level of risk, even with some of the safeguards that are out there now, or again, if I don't give my child any access to technology, then one day they will get it, and they won't have been sort of and you talk a lot about this from the stuff I've read is, you've got to have these conversations with your kids about what's out there and what they can do with it. And that's to inoculate them because it is coming. And so this is sort of the internet with training wheels and bubble wrap, right? And we want our kids to understand the core functionalities of it. This is what it can do for you. This is how it can help you get smarter. But we don't want in the course of that for them to be irreparably harmed.
Yeah.
And that's what AngelQ is all about.
Amazing. We at Project Stand, we like to say that because of technology, today's youth have the power to do more good or more harm than any previous
Oh,
generation.
that's exactly right.
And it all depends on where they stand. And it sounds like AngelQ is a great starting place to get them on the right foot so that they can then go down that path of doing so much good
That's
and
exactly
reaching their
right.
potential. Well, Josh, thank you so much. Thank you for your service to our country. Congratulations on your new baby. And thank you for what you've done with AngelQ and for providing such a great resource. And thank you for joining me here today. Appreciate it.
Yeah. Thank you, Brady. Thanks for having me on. This has been great.